Hi, I'm Angie, and today we're going to be talking to my friend Zach. I've known Zach for probably around 18 years, I think, and he is certified as a yoga instructor at the 300-hour level. But instead of coming to yoga through asana, which is the poses, the kind of physical aspect, he came to yoga through meditation. He's also a singer-songwriter, and so he identifies very much with the sound aspects of yoga, which is something I think a lot of people don't think about. And so we're going to learn more about that today. Hello, Zach. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Doing great. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, you are really into kind of the audio aspects or the sound aspects of yoga, if you will. Chant, mantra, kirtan. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay, okay. Um, so I wanted you to tell us a little bit about those. Maybe first give us just a little definition and then like how do you use them or what they mean to you?
Sure. Sure. So kirtan is traditionally kind of a call and response type of
Mm,
chanting. And it's ancient and, every sort of part of yoga and path of yoga has some aspect of chanting that is involved, as most spiritual traditions have
right.
some aspect of chanting. And so technically, it's basically just repeating repetition of a mantra um, or some other sort of
Hmm.
scriptural verse or something. Um, there are things called bhajans, which are much more involved. There are longer texts that are chanted, and there's usually not a call and response aspect to that. It's usually everyone is chanting this longer text. Um, but the kirtan is usually a back and forth call and response kind of a thing, and it's often a lot simpler, and it's based around um, either well-known mantras or mantras that are a little bit easier to repeat and get kind of back and forth into. And
And
they come from a lot of places. The
okay.
mantras are found all over, and kirtan now is brought in mantras from many different traditions, and so oftentimes in a kirtan there might be a Sufi chant that's a part of it, or there might be there's many different chants that can be used from Christianity or Judaism or wherever, or sometimes there's even just uplifting words that can be part of it. It's evolved a lot,
Oh,
and the
okay.
Western world has kind of brought our um,
Flavor to it.
thing to it. Yeah.
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 Okay. Now the traditional ones, like you're saying, there's some from Christianity and Judaism and whatnot, but traditionally, are they all in Sanskrit?
Yeah,
A lot of
Sanskrit's the
them.
main
Anyway. Okay. Yeah.
the main aspect of it, or in one of the other many tongues of India, but Sanskrit's the main.
Okay. Okay. So, for you to like learn to lead these, did you like study a lot of the language or?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I studied the language. I have spent a lot of time with many mantras,
Okay.
and I've studied a lot of the traditional kirtan. I've also studied a bunch of the sort of westernized version of it as well.
Okay. Yeah. So I know like they say with Om, for example, it's a vibrational thing. And so I was wondering with Kirtan, is it more the mantra, like the words themselves, or is it the tones, or like what, like, is it everything? What do you feel like really brings the experience home?
I think it is everything.
Okay.
They've had many centuries to kind of
Mhm.
work out the science,
Right.
and so it's all very it's all very thoughtful and put together.
Okay.
I think the mantra itself has a vibration. Those words have very ancient roots, and
Hmm.
Sanskrit's very much a language that is, thought of at least as kind of really visually representing like what you're trying to represent with language. I'm not sure if I said that well, but the mantra itself, I think, has a lot of energy
Uh-huh.
around it, and they're mantras that people have been using for millennia. So
Right.
I think that also adds something to it. The traditional kirtans, there's usually fairly set melodies, and I think
Mm,
those also traditionally bring a vibration about, and the way that the melody either rises or falls, and I think that
mhm.
that does some things to energetically to our system. um, and even in the Western more modernized versions where the melodies are not set classically, I think that there's really something about just putting a mantra into some kind of a melody and bringing some song around it. I think song is such an important aspect of being human. And human, I mean, I think it's our first language. Really,
Yeah.
we had music and some sort of that before we had anything else spoken or written.
Right.
So it really, I think, reaches into something deep within us, and calls to that. On top of that, there is the meanings of the mantras, which I think can be very helpful at times. Although I think that there's varying thought on that.
Okay.
Sometimes it's wonderful to know exactly what you're chanting, and you can get deeper because of that. Other times that might be a bit of a chant that might be an obstacle to getting deeper as you're thinking about this thing, and your thoughts are starting to go. Or if you're not terribly comfortable with Sanskrit and
Right.
India and some of the mythologies and ideas, that could maybe be a block to just getting into what it's talking about. I mean, all of the mantras, all of the ideologies, all of the mythologies are really talking about, a very universal energy that every single person can experience, and most of us have in some way or another. So we can, the meaning, I think, can go either way for folks.
So like you're
And there's
saying, even
also,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, the last kind of piece to it is, it is musical and it's singing, and so that is a whole pranayama in itself of
That's a good
um,
point.
using the mantra. The traditional kirtans tend to last a decent amount of time, so each chant is you're doing it for a while, so you're really trying to get into a bit of a meditative space. You're often getting into a space beyond your normal thinking kind of place, and you can get pretty deep with it, and I think that the breath work is part of that as well.
Right. I was going to ask you about that later, actually. So how do you integrate mantra or a kirtan into it? It becomes meditation for you. Is that correct? Like,
It does.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you,
for
and
me, I
okay.
take it very meditatively.
Yeah. When you're leading other people, I mean, what do you generally tell them? Like, do you tell them to like focus on an idea that they want to meditate on first, or clear their mind, or like do you just let kind of the whole kirtan rather, just let them go wherever their mind leads from doing it? What do you think?
Well, I tend to be fairly free about it.
Okay.
I don't like to set a whole lot of parameters for folks.
Gotcha.
I think if we're expecting something, we'll have a different experience than if we're not. Um, so typically, I try to get I start kirtans with silence and with om and with just a little bit of sort of silent meditation to kind of get us out of whatever our day was, to get us a little bit, to get our mind a little bit more in the space and in
Okay.
the a little bit more in the heart, because all of kirtan, like all chanting, is a devotional practice.
Right.
So getting into some sort of heart space, some sort of place where we can, offer ourselves a little bit
Yeah.
deeper. So I like to start that way, and I do often have some little spiel about Sanskrit, or about just the fact that these are, you don't have to believe in a certain god or a certain religion in order to get into it, or in order for this to work, or your beliefs doesn't negate any of this. You kind of go wherever you need to go, and whatever your ideas of the divine are is beautiful, and that's kind of the space that you should be walking in. So
Right.
I tend to not talk a whole lot about the mantras. Like I said, I don't want to get I don't want to put someone in a box with it, and So I like to let them think, and it's interesting because after kirtan, sometimes I'll talk to folks that maybe are newer to it, um, about some of the mantras and maybe how they felt, or if it brought anything up or any emotions or anything. And oftentimes, strangely enough, the mantras, will bring up the kind of, if it's a mantra to Krishna and you don't know anything about Krishna, and I don't really talk a lot about Krishna, there's very much a lot of love that's associated with that, and that will be the thing that's brought up. That'll be the thing like, oh, this one mantra really resonated. I felt a lot, much more loving, or I felt connected to the heart, or I was reminded of someone that I really loved or something. And so I think that there's something to a lot of that. So I try not to direct people too much in the experience that they're going to have. Other people are a little bit more focused on, everybody does it a little bit differently. And again, the traditional versus the more modern, everybody has kind of a different approach to it all. But my experience has been letting people, kind of setting the space and then letting people have their experience.
Yeah, let their mind go where it wants to. Usually it's a pretty longer practice. I think I've seen you do some on Facebook Live or whatever, where it's like an hour or so. Is that normal for kirtan?
Yeah, kirtan can be an hour, a couple hours, many hours. It just all depends. Typically, the chanting, like each mantra is recited a pretty decent amount of time in a normal kirtan. So it's it all kind of depends. I like the series that I was doing on Facebook. I like taking one mantra and doing 45 minutes of that mantra, because that's not necessarily an experience that a lot of people have. So I like to kind of, that's interesting to me, and you can get really, really deep into that by repeating just one thing over and over and over again. But a full kirtan is usually a couple of hours, 1 to 2 hours, or if it's a celebration or a special occasion or whatever, it could be many, many hours.
A day-long thing.
Yeah, we've hosted several events that were 6-7 hours of kirtan. Wow. So it's kind of whatever it needs to be, I guess.
Right. Okay. No, that's cool. And do you want to share like your favorite mantra with us before we go? If you don't want to, that's okay.
It's hard to pick a favorite.
Oh, okay.
I like things.
Just a short one that you love. How about that?
I guess I could. There's a beautiful mantra to Tara that has been in my practice for a very long time, and it's Tare Tutare Ture Svaha, and it comes more from the Buddhist tradition, especially the Tibetan lineage of it. But it's this really beautiful, very compassionate mantra, and so it's one that I find myself with a lot.
Fabulous. And how long have you been leading kirtan? It's been a while, yeah?
It has been a while. It's been probably 15 years or so.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else you think just a beginner who's completely new to this should know, so that like if they wanted to go to an event, for an example, or watch one even online, they're not intimidated?
Sure.
Okay.
I think first of all, a lot of people have a lot of self-consciousness about their voice. As a culture, we don't tend to celebrate the fact that every single person can sing, because every person has a voice, and you don't have to sound like the greatest singer in the world in order to sing. Like, it's not about that. So I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and I know a lot of people are a little hesitant coming to something where you're encouraged to participate because of that cultural conditioning that we have.
Yeah.
But everybody's voice is beautiful, and everybody's voice is different. And if you've never been to something like this, you don't have to be shouting. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. The mantra works if it's whispered. The mantra works if you just repeat it in your head. The mantra works if you sing it. The mantra works if you speak it. So you can participate to whatever level that feels comfortable to you. And as the night goes on, that might change, and you might feel it a little bit differently, and you might allow yourself to go. And there's a room full of people that are also doing that. And it's, I love the live, you can't repeat. I mean, there's nothing that the virtual world can do to quite capture what happens live. And when you have a room full of people that are all chanting, and they're going into their own place, and that oftentimes can free up other folks, because they're, if someone is really moved and is really able to express themselves differently, or goes into a different melody, or does something different with the mantra, that can encourage other folks, that it's okay to do that. It's okay to be there, and whatever. And it's none of this is about a competition. None of this is about even sounding good, or like, that idea isn't even part of this. It's just it's a devotion. You're giving um, gratitude to whatever it is that you might be thankful for, whether that's the divine, whether that's your people in your life, whether that's something that you just want to cultivate more of. It's about that. So it's about you and your personal experience. And I think that most kirtans I've ever been to, the people set up a very welcoming and safe space for folks, so that if you can participate to how you feel comfortable. So if you've never been, don't feel like you're going to be like put on a microphone or spotlighted or anything. Like, it's whatever you want to do. And you can be there. Many people have come to kirtans and they sit silently, or they lay down, and they experience their meditation that way. And some folks dance, and that's their meditation. And so they'll be dancing. Some folks are really into the singing aspect, and it's all beautiful, and it's all welcome.
Very cool. Okay, well, thank you for explaining all of that to us. I think it'll be new to quite a few people, even if they're, if they've done yoga, but they've only done asana. This is such a different aspect of it. So I think that'll be really fun for some people to learn about.
It is. Yeah, I'm grateful to be asked to share a few thoughts, and I really appreciate you. And I am excited that people can go on a chanting journey. I think it's been a really powerful part of my life, and I think it's a great medicine for all of us, especially in the times that we live in. And and I think that once you start, it'll be amazing what it does in your life, and where it shows up, and how it shows up. And you might find the asana practice containing mantra and containing those kinds of things as well. So you never know where it goes.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.